Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. This is your Wednesday edition of Weather Where You Are. First Alert Weather. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to switch things up a little bit today. Colorado State, which is not technically the official hurricane prediction, it comes from NOAA, we know that, but they have a really highly accurate hurricane prediction system, and they released a big paper today giving a very early look at this hurricane season. So I kind of wanted to take you guys through it. Just so y'all know, this is kind of what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back and forth. This is their paper, okay? And then I've made some graphics to kind of explain what they are saying, but it's just very interesting. So this is for all my tropical weather nerds out there, okay? So this is their paper that they released a couple weeks ago. They say they anticipate the 2025 hurricane season to have an above normal activity. So out of the gate, they are once again predicting above normal activity. Here's the interesting thing. So we were in a La Nina last year, and La Nina is likely to transition to a neutral condition in the next couple of months. Although there is uncertainty as to what phase INSO will be in summer and fall. So you're probably thinking, what the heck is INSO? And what is La Nina? Well, I'm here to talk to you about it, okay? La Nina El Nino is a pattern, cyclical pattern of the movement of cold and warm water in the Pacific Ocean. Usually there's this big pool of cold water that pools off of the western coast of South America. When that pool of cold water gets pushed more towards Australia, so the western Pacific, that's called La Nina. It cools the Pacific Ocean. That pattern has impacts all over the world. Impacts weather all over the world. El Nino is the opposite, is when the warm water pools off of the western coast, okay? When you have La Nina conditions, what happens is it actually impacts the jet stream. So normally the jet stream in the summer is kind of at lower latitudes. It's sitting kind of right over us. Think about the jet stream at winds at 30,000 feet where planes fly. Jet streams, it drives all weather. Okay, it's what moves our weather systems. It is a dividing line between warm and cold air. The jet stream has a major impact on weather. But in La Nina years, the jet stream pushes north. When that jet stream pushes north, then you have less wind shear or really high winds in the areas where hurricanes form. Okay, the jet stream is more up towards Canada, so there's very calm weather in the tropics. Believe it or not, that actually helps hurricane formations because the jet stream can actually shear apart. It can hinder hurricane formation. It can actually just kind of rip the storms apart. So when you have La Nina years and the jet stream moves north, you're more likely to have hurricanes form. That's what we had last year. We're now entering into a more neutral pattern with the INSO, or with the what's called southern oscillation, okay? What that means is that the jet stream may stay south, which would shear apart these storms as they move into the Gulf, which would mean lower hurricane formation than last year, okay? Let's go back to the paper. Sea surface temperatures, that's another huge thing. Sea surface temperatures across the eastern and central Atlantic are generally warmer than normal, but not as warm as they were last year at this time. Okay? Now again, let's go talk about it. Sea surface temperatures, you guys know you need warm ocean water for hurricanes, water over 80 degrees. We usually see that water get over to 80 degrees sometime in the middle of June. That's why our hurricane season peaks in mid-September, because that's when ocean water is the warmest. So this is the sea surface temperature anomaly, or departure from normal. Any yellow you see is sea surface temperatures above average, and blue is sea surface temperatures below average. So you can see most of the Gulf right now is sitting above average. We know that. It's been that way for years. Meanwhile, though, the East Coast from South Carolina all the way up from New York is below average. So that's good news for the Atlantic coastline. It may mean that there's going to be lower hurricane activity there. Meanwhile, probably very warm ocean waters in the Gulf would suggest higher activity there. So that's what they're talking about. Okay. Now I want to go down on this paper. Can I go down? I sure can. Okay. So here's what they're actually predicting. I'm going to actually put this over here. So the average number of named storms that we get, 14. 7 hurricanes, 3 major hurricanes. Last year we had 17 named storms. We had 9 hurricanes and 4 major hurricanes. So it was a slightly above average season. It just felt so bad because Hurricane Helene was terrible and so was Hurricane Milton, and they were back to back. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Last year we had 18 named storms, 11 hurricanes, and 5 major hurricanes. So we did have an above average season. They're going just slightly below that this year. They're forecasting 17 named storms, 9 hurricanes, 4 major hurricanes. So they're still forecasting an above average season, but not quite what last season was, okay? And this is so interesting that they can find all this information. Probabilities for at least one major hurricane. The entire continental U.S., 50%. That's crazy. East Coast, only 26%. And that might be because of what we just talked about, right? And then the Gulf Coast from the Florida Panhandle west is 33%. Now I want to show you. This is why they're predicting a 50% of a major landfalling hurricane. I just want to talk about last year. Last year, we had Hurricane Helene. It was a Cat 4, made landfall in the Big Bend area of Florida. Then we had Hurricane Milton. It was a Cat 3, made landfall right over Tampa. Sarasota, really. But in the last 7 years, just the last 7 years, we've had 10 major Category 3 or higher hurricanes make landfall in the Gulf Coast. It's so unfortunate, guys. The ocean water is just cooking in the Gulf. It's shallow water. We have global warming. We can argue all day about what's causing global warming. Let's not get political. Let's just be real. That ocean water is always, and has been for the last several years, sitting way above average. And when you have that, especially at peak season, you get these small systems. They can be tropical storms that move into the Gulf and they just explode. And that's what we've seen. So I would not buy land on the Gulf Coast. Remember Harvey really took down Houston. That was in 2017. We had Hurricane Laura. Ida was a bad one. Zeta, we remember Zeta moved right over us here. Michael was a Category 5, completely wiped out Mexico Beach. Do you remember that? In Florida in 2018. Then we had Ian. Ian was terrible in 2022. Made landfall right near the Fort Myers area. So these are all significant hurricanes and just in the last 7 years, okay? And then let's talk about Florida. So Florida since 1851, and this is not the entire coast of Florida. This is just the Gulf Coast of Florida and the Panhandle. 54 major hurricanes. That's crazy. But since 2000, there's been 13. And in the last 15 years, since 2010, there's been 6. So every other year, there's a major hurricane making landfall there. That's why the Colorado State is predicting a 51% chance of a major hurricane and a 1 out of 3 chance of a major hurricane along the Gulf Coast. I would go higher than that. I think if we see a major hurricane, it's going to be landfall on the Gulf Coast. Okay? So that was just really interesting to me, this kind of stuff and what they're talking about. I want to show you. This is actually the model that they used, which is the ACE, is the energy index of. And the blue is what actually happened, and the red is what they predicted. So last year they predicted a way above average season. And actually, last year their prediction was the first year it was significantly off. But you can see this model that they used to predict is really pretty accurate most of the time. So I would go as far as to say sometimes Colorado State has a better forecast than NOAA. And again, they're predicting a slightly above average season. So just very interesting to me. We get our official NOAA forecast, I believe, in a few weeks. And of course, we'll bring that to you. Hurricane season starts June 1st. We usually don't see our first significant storm until end of July, August, and then September. But if Colorado State ends up being right, again, let me see if I can go back to that forecast. They are predicting 17 named storms, 9 hurricanes. Double, more than double. Okay? And 4 major hurricanes. Very interesting. Little sciencey for you. All right, y'all. Get outside, enjoy this beautiful weather. It's going to stay gorgeous for the next several days. I hope you enjoyed my little breakout, and I'll see you tomorrow.